Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening. Whatever time you find this video, I hope it has found you well. Today is actually, well, it's the pre-release for Shadows over Innistrad. And I actually played last night, or actually yesterday afternoon. Despite still going into work and still getting all that work done, I did manage to go to pre-release, and I did get some very interesting cards. So, well, I have an extra one of these. I wanted to talk about the cards that I got, the deck I eventually settled on putting together. I don't know what this strange green plastic is that was inside of the box when I opened it. But I also wanted to talk about these interesting little deck boxes. This is Tamiyo. I see, somebody even wondered, where are you supposed to write your name on the deck box? I think that's what this little patch is for right down here. Possibly. So when you need to see whose deck it is, well, that's what the writing would be. But this is a really interesting thing. You can see from the sides, it's supposed to be Tamiyo's journal. It's the scroll, and then there's the page work and the clasp up here. I believe this to be Tamiyo's symbol, and I mean, come on, that's a smiley face with googly eyes. That's cool. It's cute. On the inside, though, we see that at the top we have a file of ink, a pen, which is interesting. So apparently Tamiyo knows how to use a pen instead of just a quill. Then we have the stopper for the end of the pen after I assume it's full of ink. And then on the inside we see these little containers. The die would go right here. I have a white Shadows over Innistrad die. But then we also have these little patterns in the back of the box as well. And we don't know what those are. And it's possible that once all of the boxes are revealed, that there's more clues to be found with Tamiyo's deck box. But this little thing comes out, the little, not sure what to call it. Let's see if I can get it to come out. Probably not like that. There we go. And it unfolds. It's got the symbol, and to me this looks like a lot of different things, but see how you have this circle and what would appear to be angel wings bent. It's the moon with an angel's wings coming out of the back, how they would bend down and over something. Or, like this, it really looks like Liliana's crown or hat. Anyway, there's a little tab inside there, and I think it will come out. There we go. And when it opens, you see there's Jace finding the journal, which is what this is. Very interesting, I think. Over here, illustration by Chase Stone, and then this outside piece, we don't know what else it will do, but for now what it does is it keeps the this little side section clear so that you can put the dice and still be able to get to it. Otherwise I think it would fall down in and get underneath your cards. So it's really neat. Like, you can angle it. Oh, well, it won't go in that way, but we can angle it the other way. There we go. So that we'll have the die facing out to that section right there. Really interesting little deck box. You know, I really like how this was designed. I am not completely certain who the designer is at the moment, so I can't do a shout out for them. We also have the little separators to figure out what are the sideboards or cards you want to keep separate from your deck. Somebody had left theirs on a table, so I went ahead and snatched it. You can see that the pattern is almost the same on all of them. Well, it is the same, it's just cut just slightly differently. However they do that. Interesting little things. Now for the cards, the box itself contained 6 booster packs. And I went ahead and set these cards aside, but this is all the cards that I got from this booster box. This pre-release pack. Let's keep that in the shot. My promo card was Angel of Deliverance, 6/6 flying for 8. And with Delirium, whenever Angel of Deliverance deals damage, not just to opponents, but just deals damage, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, exile target creature an opponent controls. Which is very interesting because you can swing at your opponent for 6 and still get rid of a creature that they control, exiling it. That's pretty good, and 8 mana for 6/6 flying isn't unheard of. In fact, Archangel is 5/5 for 7, but it has flying and vigilance. This extra ability is pretty good. I didn't really hit Delirium as many games because I played, well, I chose not to go with white. mainly what I do whenever I open up these packs, I start setting aside by color, and then I go by casting cost. Then I start figuring out what cards are good enough to build a deck out of. So these are all the cards that I ended up not using. Just kind of go through them pretty quick. Here's the commons. Rotten Heart Ghoul. When it dies, target player discards card. 4 for 2/4. Stallion of Ashmouth. 4 for 3/3, but with Delirium you can pump it up for 1/1 black. Let's see, Farbog Revenant. Skulk, lifelink, 1/3 for 3. A decent card, gets through because of the Skulk ability and gains life. There's also an instant I did not get that gave creatures target creature +3/+1 and lifelink that somebody else was using with the Skulk ability, and it's giving a creature +3/+1 and lifelink for only 2 mana is incredible, because old Zendikar block had Vampire's Bite, I think, or Vampire's Kiss. It was 1 black mana for +3/+0, but you had to pay an extra 3 mana to get the lifelink out of it. Murderous Compulsion. 1/1 black, destroy target tapped creature, and it has a Madness ability. That's pretty cool. Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. 2/2 for 2, 3/1 black, exile Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. From your graveyard, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. Activate only whenever you can cast a sorcery. But this is a decent card in Limited, because getting it into your graveyard isn't too hard, and then paying for 4 mana to get that zombie card out of your graveyard. Granted, it's a little bit, I mean, it's not fast, but it worked. Pale Rider of Trostad. 2 for 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, discard a card, but because of this set and Madness abilities everywhere, it's actually worthwhile to play a card like that. Then I actually got a bunch of Shamble backs. I had 4 of them. And I like this card, I just don't like it in Limited. Because if I have a creature card in my graveyard, it's because I lost that creature. If my opponent has a creature card in their graveyard, it's because they lost that creature. Which means you're not doing this on first turn. You're probably not going to do this anytime, so getting 4 of them is actually not making me want to play. In this format in Limited, you don't want to cast a whole bunch of 1 casting cost cards and put out a single 2/2 creature for each of them. So it relies on a card in the graveyard. It only puts a 2/2 black zombie. You gain 2 life, but it's not enough to really, it didn't sway me. Although I got 4 of them, that's incredible. I've heard of people getting 4 Madcap skills, or actually 5 Madcap skills in one of these Limited formats. Let's see, Indulgent Aristocrat, 2/2 lifelink, and you can pay 2 and sacrifice a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. Decent card, but I didn't have enough vampires, in my opinion, to make it worthwhile. Had a foil Dead Weight. Liliana's Indignation, a nice way to put out a bunch of cards. Again, I'm going through these with the idea, though, that I didn't build the deck with these cards. Alright, now we go to blue. Silberland Snapper. Giant Turtle. Can't attack unless you cast a non-creature spell this turn. 6/6 for 6, though. In blue, that's pretty good. Gone Missing. Put target permanent on top of its owner's library and investigate. Target permanent. It's unusual that blue gets the ability to put a land on top of somebody's library, but this can do it. It's sorcery speed, but that's still pretty good. It gets rid of a planeswalker for a turn. You can target your own thing if you need to, and then you get the investigation token. By the way, investigate is actually a really nice mechanic. And on goes the air conditioner. Investigate is actually very, very nice. I actually think people should start playing it in Standard too. Maybe not specifically this card, but Investigate is a decent enough strategy. Stormrider Spirit, flash flying for 5, pretty good in my opinion. At the end of an opponent's turn, if you didn't have to counter their spell, being able to flash something is pretty good. That's why they gave flash to the new Avacyn card. Aberrant Researchers. I got 2 of them, and I really wanted to play them. But when I looked at all the instants and sorceries I had as potential, I just couldn't see milling them into my graveyard and then flipping it. 5/4 for 4 mana to get out, not bad. 3/2 for 4 flying, not bad. There's, I got 2 of them, but I didn't think I didn't think I was going to get enough instants and sorceries off the top of my library. If I had enough to build like a 60 card deck with lots of them, maybe I'd have done it. Nibelus of Dusk. 2/1 flying prowess for 3. It's like the one card from Fate Reforged, I believe. Broken Concentration, counter target spell for 3, or Madness of 4, which means if you have any effect that allows you to discard a card, you can use the Madness effect to cast it then from exile. Pieces of the puzzle, 3 mana, reveal the top 5 cards, put it up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from among them into your hand and the rest into the graveyard. Sorcery, but still not too bad. 1 card, but it can potentially fill your hand up with 2 specific cards. Fleeting Memories, when it enters the battlefield, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. This card will actually be interesting because with Tamio's Journal and enough cards that produce clue tokens, you could build a decent mill deck. Because remember, whenever you sacrifice a clue for each of these that is in play, that's 3 cards. That's pretty good. Along with, let's see, Sphinx's Tutelage is still going to be playable, but this would easily take its place. You get to draw a card for sacrificing the clue. You'll get to mill 3 cards off the top of the library. It's worth it, I think. Deny Existence, counter target creature spell. If it's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into Elder's Graveyard. Decent card to help against the recursion decks you're going to see in Commander. Ghostly Wings, a nice way to get yourself to discard a card to return the creature to your hand. Oh, the other thing about this is, when you discard a card to return it to any creature's owner's hand, this is the cost, so you can respond to this ability by discarding more cards. You can empty out your hand for example, Geralf's Masterpiece. You can empty your hand out with this card to do it. And it's a nice madness trigger because you can cast them in response to each other. I'm sorry, you can discard in response to each activation. Vessel of Paramnesia allows you to milk 3 cards and draw a card from it. It's 1/1 blue and then 1 blue to activate. So it's 3 mana, mill 3 cards, draw a card. Not bad. Especially since you can take your time with it and it counts for devotion if you need it, or it's still an interesting card for all it gets to do. Militant Inquisitor. It's +1/+0 for each equipment you control. I saw people who had 2 of these, and they had like 3 equipment in the set. That's pretty good. I only got 1 of them though. Bound by Moonsilver. Enchant creature. The creature can't attack, block, or transform. You can sacrifice another permanent to attach Bound by Moonsilver to target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery and only once each turn. The neat thing is, with that card, Fleeting Memories, if you sacrifice a clue token to this card, they still mill 3. And the thing is, it says to target creature. You can target the creature it's already on. So there's an interesting little combo that might have worked if I had gone with perhaps Bant. Because I'll show you the cards I ended up actually playing in a moment. Angelic Purge, at the additional cost to cast it, you sacrifice a permanent. Permanent means clue token. Permanent can mean land, creature, artifact, anything you want, especially if you're going to be losing it anyway. So Angelic Purge, 3 mana to exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment is actually pretty good. In Commander, where you can put out token creatures and clue tokens and any effect that you don't really need to have something, or perhaps there's an old enchantment that's 1/1 blue, and whenever it's put into a graveyard, you draw 3 cards, so that's a nice little thing you can sacrifice to Angelic Purge. I'm just saying. Somebody else was talking about that it's unusual for white to get so many sacrifice effects. So, like that Demonic Pact that was printed in Origins, that's a decent way to use it. Get rid of it when you don't need it anymore. I mean, Unruly Mob, whenever another creature control dies, put a +1/+1 counter. 2 mana for 1/1, not bad. Nahiri's Machinations. Machinations? I want to say Machinations, but anyway. 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. 1/1 red. Nahiri's Machinations deal 1 damage to target blocking creature. These stack, so if you have multiples of Nahiri's Machination, they trigger and you can choose multiple creatures then. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here for each of these that are in play, giving them all indestructible if you have multiple copies, which is pretty good. Although the last ability doesn't really stack, but that first ability does. And it works, I could see this being a Commander card because it's the Zurgo Helm Smasher effect. Being able to give a target attacking creature indestructible works, and if you're playing Exalted, then that's even better. Puncturing Light, destroy target attacking or blocking creature with power 3 or less. That's a reprint card. Expose Evil, instant, tap 2 target creatures and investigate for only 2 mana. Unusual, because normally you just draw the card in this kind of a thing, but in this case, giving you the clue token might actually be more worthwhile than just drawing the card. Wrap your head around that one. Thraben Investigator. Thraben Investigator? I think Thraben. That sounds bad otherwise. Anyway, Thraben Investigator, 1 mana for 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you investigate. So that means for 3 mana, 1 and perhaps 2 colorless, or I'm sorry, 1 and 2 generic, you might have been able to cast a Thraben Inspector and gotten drawn a card for it. But this clue tokens mean white has a form of card draw now that didn't have access to before, and that's pretty cool. Topplegeist. With Delirium, it's pretty good. It's each opponent's upkeep that lets you do this. Being able to tap down their target creatures, that's pretty good. It doesn't work too good in Standard. I don't know if you'd be able to do it, but the fact that it is a 1/1 flyer for 1 white mana is pretty good. Being able to put an equipment on it, getting it out early, there's nothing wrong with that. Trust me. It enters the battlefield, you can tap an opponent's creature. That's pretty good. It's a decent card. Delirium's probably not going to kick in very soon, but that means that later on, because of Delirium, you might be able to do more effects and get the game over with faster. So Delirium is actually a nice late game effect. Inspiring Captain, 4 mana for 3/3. This is like the card that was printed in Origins. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain +1/+1 until end of turn. Silver Strike, destroy target attacking creature, you gain 3 life. 4 mana, instant. Actually decent because the older card like this was 4 mana, destroy target attacking creature. This one lets you gain life, and in limited, that's pretty darn good. Apothecary Geist, I think I have 2 of these. Yeah. 2/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another spirit, you gain 3 life. So life gain is a thing. And that's unusual because gaining life doesn't win you games, but if you can delay the game until you gain enough life, you gain enough life and delay the game, you can use Felidar Sovereign's ability to win, or if you get enough time then to set up Delirium, then you can control the game. So they've kind of made life gain a possible deck type. Forsaken Sanctuary. I didn't play black or white, so I didn't need it. Prized Amalgam. That was one of the cards that I got. I actually opened a pack that had 3 rares. This, a double-faced rare, and a foil rare. Not bad. Then I have Ethereal Guidance. 3 mana for 2/1. Until end of turn, sorcery. Creatures gain 2/1. Chaplain's Blessing. You gain 5 life. Again, life gain was only played to delay the game until you got Delirium. Now, let's look at these cards. There. Those are my flip cards that I got. But here are my other cards. This was kind of my sideboard. I never really used it, though. Let's see. Basically went with red-green for the deck. Yep, Magmatic Chasms. I never played them. Spirit Angel had the emblem token. Got the clue token as well. And I did get some other cards. Second Harvest, an instant doubles all tokens that you have. Decent cards, but this was the deck that I actually ended up playing. And here we go. Let's see. Weirding Wood. Interesting take. Verdant Market? Or anyway, there was a card that was 3 mana, and the land had the ability to tap for an additional mana of any color. This allows the land for tap for 2 mana of any color, but you get a clue token when it comes into play, enters the battlefield. Decent card, because if you time it out that you have 4 lands, you tap the 3, put on the 4th land, put the clue token, then tap the 4th land for 2 mana, and activate the clue to draw a card. Pretty decent. I actually like these. I don't know if they'll see standard play, but it's a decent card. Graph Mole, because I had a sub-theme of Investigate, Graph Mole helped me to keep from dying in some of my games. Let's see, Inexorable Blob, another decent card. It's a 3/3 for 3, so that's pretty good for power toughness. But whenever it attacks, if I had Delirium, I'd put a 3/3 Ooze creature token on the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So essentially, whenever I would swing out with it, I could potentially deal 6 damage instead of just 3. It makes you wonder if, like, the old Ooze from original Innistrad block, you know, this is one of its little bloblings, I guess. But it doesn't have indestructible, so there was a potential that you'd just trade or perhaps lose them. But this was a possibility that I thought if I got this and I was doing pretty well, had Delirium, I could come back from near defeat because I just start putting out as many as possible. And I had cards in here to give it vigilance. Let's see, then I had Murderer's Axe. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, 4 mana. The equipment cost is to discard a card, though. Decent card. I had Stoic Builder. There were 2 of them in my deck. And lots of lands. I never actually ended up using them to pull lands out of my graveyard, except in a very rare occasion, because I had to discard a card. You'll see why in a minute. Pulling lands out of my graveyard didn't really do anything for me, but it's a decent card. Then I had 2 of the Arsonists, which worked out pretty good for me. I want to see if I'm pronouncing this right. Gotstaff Arsonist. 5 mana for 5/4. Pretty good cost to power and toughness, but at the end of each upkeep, or at the beginning of each upkeep, if no creature spells were cast last turn, transform it. I'd usually end up, like, on my following turn, not casting anything to switch and transform them, and then casting stuff on my opponent's turn with Flash or Instance. Menace. At the beginning of each upkeep, if a player can cast 2 or more spells, last turn, transform Gotstaff Ravager. So, 6/5 Menace for 5 mana is pretty good, and it's also a nice big creature. Then I had, let's see, Village Messenger. That was this one. Look at the door, it's DiGiorno. I'm afraid it's bad news. 1/1 Haste for 1 mana. Flips over and has Menace, and it's the same effect of the transform. If no spells are cast, you transform it. If 2 spells are cast, you transform it back. Let's see. Then I got Wolf of Devil's Breach. I love this card. It's really got a neat effect. But again, you have 5 mana for 5/5. It is an elemental and a wolf, but whenever it attacks, you can pay 1/1 red and discard a card. If you do, it deals damage to target creature player equal to the discarded card's converted mana cost. That's pretty awesome because it can help you mow down your opponent's defenses. And with Madness as a discard trigger, you can take out 3 creatures in 1 turn if you're smart enough. Yeah, you can use the, let's see, Temper. Let's see, what was the card? Yeah, Fiery Temper. I got 2 of those, and you can use its ability with the Wolf of Devil's Breach, discarding Fiery Temper, Madness cost using its ability, dealing 3 here, 3 there, and then still getting 5 through because your opponent didn't have any blockers anymore. So I had a lot of really good comeback cards in this deck that allowed me to hold out on my opponent, get some quick damage in, and then as soon as I could trade creatures with them, I knew I had something to play later on. Let's see, I had Burn from Within. I never ended up actually casting it. It was in my hand in some games, but I had enough damage to win without it. It's a X spell. When it deals damage to a creature or player, if a creature is dealt damage, the creature loses indestructible, and if it would die, you exile it instead. Disintegrate type of card. Rush of Adrenaline won me my last game, although I think I probably had that game either way. Neglected Heirloom, right here. Decent card, 1 mana, 1 equip, 1/1. And then if it's on a creature that transforms, you transform the Neglected Heirloom. When you transform this, though, it's still equipped to that creature. So what I had in mind was all these cards that transformed. Village Messenger, the Arsonist. If I went ahead and equipped it as the 1/1 on their creature, then they'd think twice about, casting 2 spells, because it would flip over and then it'd be +3/+3 to the Village Messenger, making it a 4/4. Then if it flipped back, it'd be 5/5. Whereas otherwise, it's just a 3/3 creature. That's the thing. When they transform back, they're still transforming. So Neglected Heirloom is actually a really nice card. Nice insurance for if they actually were to stop you, I guess. Tireless Tracker. It's a decent card. This, with the mole, helped me gain a lot of life, but in and of itself, whenever you sacrifice a clue token, you put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. So it was a nice feature to get out early, play my lands, put +1/+1 counters on it by sacrificing, etc. Drawing cards with the clue tokens, everything about that had a nice synergy to it, and that's kind of pushed me over the tipping point, and I wanted to play red and green. Let's see, more lands. Loam Dryad. Decent 1/2 for 1. There were only, I think, two 1 casting cost creatures in the deck that I ended up playing. Loam Dryad because it could help me ramp, and then the Village Messenger because it could help me get some quick damage in, who have Menace if it transformed, and I could put the Heirloom on it. Let's see, Tormenting Voice, that was the card that I used. I would pitch an early land card to draw 2 cards and then pull the land back with Stoic Builder. Let's see. Senseless Rage. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and I can Madness cast it, so if I were to discard it with any other effect, like even the Murderer's Axe, I could actually then Madness cast it to put onto something. And let's see. True Faith Sensor. This card right here was really nice because I had all these humans that became werewolves, and just enough, not enough to say tribal, but just enough to say, yeah, that worked pretty good. So the True Faith Sensor being put on the Stoic Builder made it into a 4/4 because if the creature was human, it got an additional +1/+0. But +1/+1 in Vigilance is pretty good in Limited, and I don't know if it'll see play in Standard, but it might, because human tribal is definitely a thing. Dissension in the ranks. Target blocking creature fights another target blocking creature. Not bad. It's 5 mana, but basically what would happen is if your opponent blocked something big enough, like a 7/7 and a 1/1, trying to kill whatever I had that had 8 toughness, I would make their 7/7 fight the 1/1. The 1/1 would die before combat damage, and the 7/7 would have 1 damage already on its toughness. So Dissension in the Ranks is a very nice spot removal card for red. Unusual. Works interesting if you have things that have Infect, or your opponent has things that have Infect. You can force their Infect creature to fight something else that they've got. Let's see, then I had Gare Reach, probably mispronounced that, Gare Reach Bandit, 3/2 haste for 3. It's the transform ability, and its other side is a 4/3, and whenever it enters the battlefield under your control, you may transform it. Now, I wonder how this works if you were somehow to play another one and transform it immediately. I don't think it would have haste then, because the haste is on this side. When it flips over, it shouldn't still have haste, and then it would have the Summoning Sickness. So yeah, because haste doesn't remove Summoning Sickness. If you have Summoning Sickness and haste means it ignores it. So if you were to take the haste away, it still has Summoning Sickness. So flipping it over should be what that means. And then the last one was Sage of Ancient Lore, which became Werewolf of Ancient Hunger. But Sage of Ancient Lore, 5 mana, has power toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Then it transforms, has Vigilance and Trample, and it has power toughness equal to the total number of cards in all players' hands. So my opponents tried to empty their hand out as quickly as possible, and then they wouldn't be able to stop it from transforming, because that's the nice thing about this. They empty out their hand and make it transform back. It's going to transform again because they can't play a spell. They'll draw a land or something. So it's a really neat card. It takes care of itself very nicely. And let's see. I know I have another card. I think I set aside the foil rare. But Uncaged Fury. I think I have more than one of these. There's some cards missing. Maybe it's in there. But target creature gets +1/+1 and gains double strike until end of turn. That saved my game a couple of times. And the last one, Rabid Bite. It's the fight ability, but they gave it to green without it actually having to fight. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Typically, I would get out a creature with just enough power that it would take down one of my opponent's creatures. And then my creature wouldn't be damaged at all, and I could still swing out and possibly get another creature when they had to block. But I had to, again, the deck worked very, very nicely, very decently. And I had a lot of fun playing it. The last game I didn't know if I said that, I went undefeated. My last game then, it was very worthwhile against an opponent who I think played very, very well. So yeah, had a lot of fun at the pre-release. Well, I don't have anything else to really say. Somewhere. That's not it. Oh well. Anyway, interesting deck, I thought. Had a really good time at the pre-release, and I hope you guys had a great pre-release as well. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're having a wonderful morning, a wonderful afternoon, and or a wonderful evening. I hope tomorrow's even better. Take care, everyone.